What's happening, folks? We're live on FTYT. You're watching FTTV. It's me, Jack Higgins, and I'm joined by the ever-present Connor Sweeney. How you doing, Connor?
All right, folks. Glad to be here. How are we doing?
And the other ever-present is Truffles, David Campbell, who's dressed like an idiot.
I am dressed like I run my dojo, which is what this is. I am in my dojo. This is my place of tranquility. Strike hard, strike fast. And of course, I will leave a good-looking corpse because I'm gorgeous. Let's talk Cobra Kai. I cannot wait. Let's do it.
I will. You've just spoiled that there. But yeah, we are.
Truffles, I've seen you wear worse.
Talking Cobra Kai season 3, and first of all, just what a popular show it is. I just wanted to get that across there. 41 million households projected to have watched the third season in the first week, which bypasses some really popular shows. So it's massively done well in that regard. So first of all, I just wanted to get some thoughts. Truffles, what was your thoughts going into the third season? Where did you come by? This is a kind of long-winded question, right? But just kind of go with it. How did you come across the first and second seasons? What kind of got you into it? And then what was your sort of expectations for the third season?
I heard about it for ages, just in several commentary shows. Christian Harloff over at SEN talked about Cobra Kai very highly a lot of the time, had interviews with the creators of it and the cast members, so I'd been aware of it for some time, but it was on the YouTube Premium when they were trying to really make a go of their streaming service, so no one over here saw it, and barely anyone in America saw it, even though it was the most watched thing on that service at the time. So season 2 came and went, and Netflix bought the rights to Cobra Kai, started making it, put the first 2 seasons, dumped them on Netflix. They were very popular, managed to watch them, and I just think it's perfect comfort TV. That's all it is, because it's something that's easy to watch. It's 20-minute, half-an-hour episodes, and at the same time, they don't treat their characters, like idiots. There is grey areas there, and of course it's cheesy, but the character motivations make sense, and the plot lines are interesting, and it keeps you hooked along the way. I think it's a really, really good, tight show, and carries on. We were talking about Mandalorian carrying on the Star Wars legacy. This carries on the Karate Kid legacy very well as well.
Fair. No, you mentioned a few things there. First of all, that just what you finished off there with the kind of carrying on that legacy. I think for a lot of people who have probably been big fans of Karate Kid, especially back in the day, because they are old movies when you think about them. I think it was 80s, early 90s, maybe. I think there was maybe 3 or 4 of them. So to carry on that legacy, as you said, and I think even though it might not appeal to those original, the original audience, I think people who have some sort of understanding of the original Karate Kid stuff, it definitely. Funnily enough, I didn't even realise that it was a carry on for Karate Kid until maybe the 3rd or 4th episode in of the first season, and I was like, "Oh, right, that makes sense."
How can you forget all those flashbacks they show you, man? They don't let you forget.
Well, it wasn't until the 3rd season that it happened, and it was like a Miyagi thing, and I was like, "Oh, what?" Oh, and then the penny absolutely dropped for me. So, so a similar question, Sweeney. Just how did you come across it? It was obviously a YouTube channel, as you said there, Truff. A YouTube show, originally, and then managed to get his platform on Netflix. So, were you one of the ones that caught up with it on Netflix, Sweeney, or had you seen it back in the day?
I did, because I hadn't seen the original Karate Kids, so I think it might have been Truffles actually. They just basically mentioned to me that I should maybe give it a watch, and it's one of these things, as you say, just put it on just for something to watch, and then it was brilliant. It's good to binge because I think it was the first 2 seasons on, but it's really short episodes, which is really good. So, and then I think season 3 came. Was it just the end of December? I think it put on. Start of January. So no, it was great. So cheers, Truffles, for your suggestion. Well worth it. So.
That's how you get my dojo, that type of tutelage. You gotta love it.
No, it's still on Sweeney though. What were your kind of expectations then, Sweeney, going into this into the 3rd season? Before obviously seeing it, was there anything that you wanted to see more of, or was there anything that you didn't quite like from the first 2 seasons that you would have liked to have seen them can?
Well, to kind of go back, so before I watched the original Cobra Kai, the only Karate Kid, I hadn't watched the originals, but I'd watched, do you know those they done with Jaden Smith? They done like a one-off, like
film. The Jackie Chan, the reboot. They did the reboot.
With Jaden Smith, and Jackie Chan was in it. Aye, so I kind of watched that. So as you can expect, I had quite low expectations. So, but yeah, I got really into it. It was brilliant. It's, as you said, the only thing I would say is it's really cheesy. It's like I don't know. It's like, almost like a caricature of itself. I didn't. It's a wee bit cheesy, but it's good. Season 3, I had like, a lot of expectations, and I will discuss whether they lived up to them later on. But
Aye, so you kind of went into it with an open mind, I suppose. No, I think
I did, mate. I did.
I'm the same. I do find it very cheesy. At times, I'm actually my toes are curling at some of the lines that they're saying.
Aye.
And I think it's even worse because like there's a difference between it just being cheesy as most, I don't know, anything in Hollywood can be cheesy, right? But it's the fact that it's a teen show, really. You know, at its heart and at its roots, it is a kind of teen show. Even Karate Kid, the original movies were effectively teen films. You know, teen movies. They played up to the idea of bullying being prevalent, and it's all calling each other dickweed and dickwad and all that. It's all that part of, so there's nothing really funny about it for me. Like, it doesn't make me laugh as much like as it probably does some Americans that find that part hilarious. No offense to any Americans, that I'm sure it's funny.
Any Americans, please feel free to comment in the comments below how much you love us here at FTTV.
But yeah, I think you're right when it strikes a balance between being really cheesy and too far. As I said, it does curl my toes, but it also it keeps it quite rooted at times, and you kind of remember that it is a playful show. You're not meant to take it too serious, and I think, Truff, when we spoke about it, that's something that you touch on. Is there anything else on that front, Truff, that you'd like to say about the show and why it performs so well?
I think it performs so well because it appeals to different demographics. Like you say, Jack, at its core, it is a teen show, and that comes down from the new generation of characters. We're going to talk about Miguel, we're going to talk about Sam, we're going to talk about Robbie. You know, these are good young actors, and the young actors were a good social media presence as well, which plays a lot into it. You know, Peyton List, who comes in season 2 and was more prominent this season, you know, she was on a popular Disney Channel show for years as well, you know, so they do appeal to a certain demographic and a certain audience, and I feel they service that demographic well. But I also feel they service older fans as well, you know, people who grew up with the original Karate Kid, who grew up with those characters, who knew that story, are more than welcome back into this world. And don't forget, like, the first episode, you don't really get any of the teen stuff back in season 1. This is Johnny's story at its core, and I think they play so well with the fact that Johnny at his heart is kind of still that 80s bully, you know, some of the stuff he says, but now then it was played like, oh, he's the villain, he's the bad guy. Now it's kind of just played for laughs because you see actually how ridiculous it is, and he's become more self-aware of it as well. Like, there's a great moment in this season where he whacks the book out. He goes into school and he whacks the book out of someone's guy hand. He's like, sorry, bad habit. Like, he's still that guy, you know, he's still that guy, which is what makes this show like so good, because you've got all these characters with different shades of grey. No one's really in the right and wrong apart from John Kreese, but he's still an interesting villain, you know what I mean? So it's such a good show, and a compelling show in that way, because I like that dynamic. Sometimes you need that bit of cheese in life, especially if life gets a bit too serious, you know what I mean?
Aye. No, just going on for that, we are, the sort of dynamic of the show will be going through the 3 factions that appear in this season. Obviously your Miyagi-Do, your Cobra Kai, and then your newly formed Eagle Fang. So we'll obviously talk about them in a bit more depth and dive into what the characters have to say and their parts in it. So, but something that you mentioned there, Truff, was Johnny being portrayed as a villain early doors, but you're still seeing it from his perspective. I did like that. I liked that sort of view that it doesn't really matter what your life has been like. Obviously, Daniel LaRusso was poor and had this sort of working class upbringing, and then learned to fight, you know, to combat that. And in the other instance, you've obviously got Johnny who just had like a sort of, I don't know, because I was going to say abusive father, but his father's not even like abusive really. It's just that it's obviously the disrespect that he is exposed to. His mum being disrespected and taken for granted, and obviously his stepdad just sort of being the top of the world. So it's that intimidation that he obviously has grown up in that household, but at the same time it is a privileged household. So But that, as I said, it's flipping the coin on it, and you don't really see that side of Johnny Lawrence. You don't see like what happens to him in his house and that. So the fact that Daniel's always held him accountable for his actions, saying that he's just a bully and that he's not, there's no real thought to why he's like that.
Yeah.
But then we get that backstory, which is quite nice. Anyway, so moving on from season 1 and season 2, it is quite nice to see the relief pulled from Johnny, and he's not so much the villain anymore. It is he is that sort of midway point between good and evil, where he's just constantly conflicted with both trying to be a decent dad, which he'll never be because he's just an arsehole at the core. Yeah. And then also still trying to keep up appearances as being this badass, I love rock and roll, I love to fight kind of idea, like Finlay.
Like Finlay. Class. A Finlay reference.
But we'll move on, and we'll start off with Miyagi-Do, and we'll get into the first character, which is Daniel, right? Daniel LaRusso. So obviously, from what we know, he's the owner of this really popular car dealership, and everything seems to be going quite swimming. Obviously, at the end of the last season, a massive fight in the high school, and it seemed to sort of strike everybody amongst the community, everybody in this place. I can't really remember the name of the place that they live in, but everybody is quite stricken by it, and worried about Miguel and blah blah blah. Daniel, on the other hand, is more worried about Robbie. Yeah. Okay, so you've got Daniel, who's interested in Robbie's character and where his, where's he going to fit into all this. Meanwhile, his daughter, Samantha, is obviously massively engrossed in what is happening to Miguel, and obviously wants Miguel to fare well. So you've got this conflict in Daniel, obviously trying to look after his business, but he feels this Miyagi call back to the dojo. So Truff, what is it about Daniel's story in this season that you particularly enjoyed? Is there anything that you wanted more from, or anything that you would have done differently for him?
I'll say this about Daniel as a character. He's a bit of a wank, isn't he? Like, obviously, he's the hero of the Karate Kid and stuff like that, but he's a bit of a stubborn wank at times, a bit of a wet wipe. And I have to say, season 3 kind of fixed those issues for me in a way, because you've just wanted to shake Danny for the first 2 seasons. Every time he's been like, I knew you were no good. I knew you were a no good guy and all that. And you're just like, shut up and actually, get a grip of your life and realize, that people have moved on since high school, which you couldn't seem to do. But what I did like about his story this season was particularly stripped to Okinawa. He's going there to try and, save the company, save the contract. And he ends up meeting, his old flame at that point. Kumiko, I believe, is the name, and Chosen, his old rival, who tried to kill him in the events of the Karate Kid 2, which is magical. I just love that scene.
But class is Chosen.
He's amazing. He's so good.
Loved him in that.
I really want a spin-off, a Chosen spin-off. I'm just running his dojo over in Okinawa. That'd be so good. So far, I laugh so much at those scenes, and it's just so good. But I love that bit because he has this inner turmoil throughout the season where he's like, I'm the same age now that Mr. Miyagi was when he met me. And he's like, Mr. Miyagi seemed to have it all figured out. He seemed to have, all the wisdom there at his disposal to give to me. So why don't I have that for my students? And I actually got really emotional. One of the only really emotional bits I got this season was that letter that Miyagi, had sent over to Okinawa just before he died, and he talks about Daniel and how much he needed Daniel as much as Daniel needed him, and I think that was an important step in Daniel's character because it stopped him from sort of holding Miyagi up as this almost godlike figure, and realizing that he too was just a man as well. He would have made mistakes and he might not have always been totally sure of everything he was talking about all the time. So I feel that's made him come back, and he was able to be a better, more accepting man at that point, and also a better sensei, as we're going to see moving on into season 4.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Moving on for Daniel, because there isn't really much else that happens in his character. Like, it basically, we see him chasing about Robbie.
That duo, like bad cop, good cop dynamic they had going on.
It's just a kind of cat and mouse game with Robbie. Robbie's well, we'll get on to Robbie really, but you know, he's neither here nor there. So you know, Daniel's trying to be the dad that he doesn't have, and at the same time he's rejecting it. He's like, nah, fuck you. So it's a difficult one, but Daniel, as you mentioned there, he went over to Okinawa and did obviously eventually gets the money that they need. So sort of saves the business that way, which is the relief from the trip. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, what would your wife be thinking? You dirty dog. He's there with his old flame, and he's like holding hands and
He's
looking right
holding
into her
hands.
bloody eyeballs, looking into her soul, getting her to read love poems to him and all that. And I'm like, Daniel's son. I'm like,
Daniel's son.
I'm like, your wife is back home trying to save your bloody dealership, and you are away flaunting yourself with another woman.
Well, make sure we come back to Alison, because low-key she's one of my favourite characters in the full thing. I fucking would die for that woman. I think she's brilliant. The amount of shit she puts up with in this show. Somehow still moves on.
I put her in as a character, so we'll throw it. We're still in Miyagi though, so don't worry. We'll
okay, that's Amanda LaRusso.
She is LaRusso, so we'll filter in. But yeah, I think moving on to that, because a lot of Daniel's story centres around Samantha and obviously her own sort of traumas that she's going through. Obviously, after the events of the high school fight, she's left with a nasty scar that she got off of Tori, and some sort of PTSD that she somehow develops from it. Sweeney. What do you make of Samantha as a character? Because, like, I mean, can I get some money? I was a wee bit. So, what's your thoughts?
I would probably agree with you, mate. To be honest, I think to be honest, so it's probably our best season so far. Season 1 and 2, especially, she was a complete nightmare and probably one of my least favourite characters. But I think in this one, it's a really good story. So after the incident, what happens in the school, she's almost like PTSD she's got. And it's actually it's quite cool to see her kind of character journey from the start to the end of the season. But yeah, she's as far as favourite characters go, she's probably bottom of the list. Fair enough.
Character wise, don't think she's great as an actress. I mean, she doesn't play it well enough to make me change my mind about the character, because the character already is annoying, and then if you've got an annoying actress playing it, it's just like, well.
She has the worst traits of Daniel. Like sort of self-righteousness, because, like, obviously, you know, Tori shouldn't have scarred her arm and stuff like that, but there is something to be said that I think there's a way to go with Samantha's character where she recognises her privilege. You know, she recognises that, you know, she's lived a very comfortable lifestyle, she's lived in a very comfortable middle-class family, and not everyone has that. And when Miguel tries to bring that up to her in the season, you know, she's like, yeah, but that doesn't give her an excuse to bully people. Well, you've barely considered her situation, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I was about to say that would be your answer though. Like, just because you had a tough upbringing doesn't mean you have the right or the excuse to bully folk.
Correct.
You know, I think she is right in that regard,
but she also judges Tori from the minute she meets her in season 2. You know what I mean? And
that's because Tori's an absolute crackpot. I don't care if she's had a hard upbringing. She actually walks in a room and growls at folk. She's like,
we'll talk about Tori later on. You know what I mean? I have some things to say. I don't think she's as bad as everyone makes her out to be. But, you know, with Samantha LaRusso, I think, you know, the one redeeming thing she has for her is that she is a good fighter. See, when she does her fight scenes, I do believe it, that, you know, she's kicking ass, she's getting in there, and she's very capable. So that's one thing. And also,
you believe it, man? It's funny because, like, I think she looks the most awkward in all the fight scenes.
Do you think so? Yeah.
Aye. Truffles, with all due respect, she's an absolute nightmare. Aye, I think not. She could rival Samantha as one of my least favourite characters. So annoying. It's like you just skip forward and what you see her.
Wow.
I'm just not a big fan either.
That's a pretty damning verdict, but
see the love triangle as well. Like, you know, well, Robbie likes her, and you know they obviously had good connection when they were training in the first and second season, or the second season actually. And then she still goes back to Miguel, and you're like, Miguel's an arsehole. Like, why have you done that? There isn't anything, and also just, I mean, not that I'm
anti-Samantha over here. Jeez, oh.
not that
Tell us what you really think.
not that I'm partial to either Robbie or Miguel in terms of looks or attraction, but
right,
Robbie is definitely a lot better looking than Miguel. So, so why? Robbie's a nice guy and he's good looking, but you're still going to go for the ugly bad guy that can't walk?
Listen, here's the thing about Samantha and her situation. I think that you know, she was put in a tough time wherein she was the cause of that argument. She was the cause of the fight. She feels a lot of guilt over what happened to Miguel, obviously. And I think, you know, that's enough for her to try and reach out and make a connection. And, you know, things happen. You know, that's a team show. You know, would expect that sort of dynamic to happen in a team show. And I think, you know, the love triangle stuff, it is a bit played out, and obviously to set up tension, and more so, I would say, than any good character writing in Samantha's part. It's there to set up Robbie as being excluded and outcast from everyone else, so Kreese can sort of take him under his wing, you know. But, you know, I like Samantha and Miguel together. If they two hadn't come together, their senses wouldn't have come together. So in terms of, you know, what needed for the plot, you know, it was a very sort of, you know, necessary thing.
Aye, all right, Truff.
I'm trying to be the voice of reason. I'm trying to be the voice of reason here. I'm not the biggest Samantha fan either, but I need to be the one to fight her corner. I will, you know what I mean?
No, that's fair. That's fair. Right, we'll move on. Is it Alison? Is that the?
It's Amanda. Amanda, sorry, Amanda LaRusso. Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't even know Alison. Amanda LaRusso. We'll just move on to her quickly. Obviously, her main priority is to keep the dealership up and running, whilst Daniel's off playing Karate King. Or Karate Kid, even.
At this point, he's the Karate King. You know, at this point,
off playing Dojo Wars. So Amanda's trying to keep everything in check, and obviously, giving what's his name? Oh, what's the name of the cousin again?
Is it Vinny? I think it's Vinny.
I don't think it is Vinny. It looks like a Vinny though.
Vinny, aye, is it the Italian guy?
Aye.
Is that Italian American guy?
Yeah. Yeah, that guy.
I think it is Vinny, isn't it?
I was trying to look it up, but it is Vinny. Aye. So obviously try to keep him in check. He's back in a job after the stunts that he pulled.
Louis. It's Louis. Sorry, Louis LaRusso.
I knew for a fact it's not Vinny. It's the other Louis. Italian name.
To be fair, he does look like a Vinny.
He does look like a Vinny.
He could be a Vinny, right? But he isn't.
He isn't. We're wrong. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, Amanda.
I'll take it to you. You wanted to speak about Amanda. You did say she has a lot of shit to put up with. So
yeah. I can't imagine how much aspirin this woman's taken during seasons 1 and 2 to get over her husband suddenly having a midlife crisis, starting up a karate dojo at the expense of their karate dojo at the expense of their very profitable business. Imagine that your husband's just like, yeah, fuck this dealership. I can't be bothered with this. I'm going to go and start up Miyagi-Do. And she's like, okay, hun. And then all of a sudden, her daughter, who up until this point had been fine, is getting in fights at school. She's been scarred. Her son's still being a cheeky bastard. Her mother-in-law is a bitch there and all. This woman has to put up with so much crap throughout this show, including Louis, whatever his name is, being an inept employee. So see when she finally snapped in Kreese and just goes into Cobra Kai and slaps him in the face, I've never felt such a yes moment watching that show. I was like, on yourself, Amanda. And actually, it makes her really funny. Like, see the scene where she gets kicked out of the meeting and she's told to leave because of the restraining order. It actually makes me crack up because, you know, she's not been given too much to do apart from being that voice of reason. So I was just happy to see her being allowed to do more, and I hope that she takes a more active mentor role, maybe with the kids at Miyagi-Do next season, because I think as an actress, she's proved that she's versatile and she's proved that, you know, she can offer more to the show.
No, I 100% agree. That particular, those two scenes that you mentioned there, are going in to confront Kreese, and then like Kreese just playing it off so badly. I think it was perfect from both point of view. I think both from from Kreese's acting, I thought was good because he's just like that the whole way. He's just constantly kind of stoic, isn't he?
Exactly. Nice lapels like that. Bastard.
But I think also I was frustrated for her. You know, I think from both an acting point of view on Amanda's behalf, and then the character as well, just kind of being given those reins, as you said, being given that freedom to finally kind of snap, because you understand it. Everybody else has went through season 1 to 3 with snapping near enough at everything. Over absolutely nothing. So for once, it's good to see her kind of holding her tongue all the way up until now, and then she's like, "No, do you know what? Well, in fact, it's purely because our daughter's
like traumatized,
been traumatized by it. So it's like she completely places the blame on Kreese, and obviously is in a wee bit of denial because realistically, Daniel is a wee bit at fault as well, as much as everyone else who's in this whole karate dojo life.
The Valley is a very weird place
Valley,
when it comes to karate.
The
Valley.
Aye, strange place, man. Like just
the Erskine EBI needs to get like that. 3 rival karate dojos on the go. Class would that be?
Madness, man. Yeah, right. We want to move on to Eagle Fang.
The Derek Keogh dojo, you know what I mean?
Class.
He loves all the truffle singing videos. He's probably watching.
Might be. Chef is, shout out to Derek.
Shout out to Derek, mate. I hope COVID fucks off soon so you can teach me how to drive. Right, so Eagle Fang. I've actually only put Johnny Lawrence in there because I can't be asked with anybody else other than Johnny Lawrence with regards to Eagle Fang. Obviously, Miguel does fall under that, but he is original Cobra Kai, so I have him under that for that reason.
Fair enough.
Johnny Lawrence, this season took a bit of a tumble again. He seems to be fell off the wagon, back on the drink, and just an absolute screwless, isn't he? As usual, he's obviously feeling. It's funny, I was going to say feeling guilty about Miguel, but it's weird because I don't really get that often. I don't even feel like I don't even really feel like it's guilt. At first, I was kind of like, "You're an arsehole because you're not even really understanding how you're at fault here." Anyway, Sweeney, what was your thoughts on Johnny throughout the whole season? What did you make of Eagle Fang as a name and as a karate club? What was your thoughts on the sort of relationship, the budding relationship again between Johnny and Miguel? Obviously, Johnny's being Miguel's original sensei, so he kind of took to him.
Yeah, he's kind of, since the first season, he was obviously a kind of main protagonist, and as times went on, it's kind of branched out. So he's kind of at times his kind of screen time's obviously been dilated, but he's still the whole Eagle Fang scenario was utter shite though. Utter shite. Like it literally, I think it was at a dojo for about 10 minutes before they end up just joining the LaRusso one. You know what I mean? Like it was rotten. But in terms of his like performances though, I think he's been great, and I can't remember the actor's name actually. Is it Ralph? No, it's not Ralph Macchio, is it?
Oh, you should know that, mate. You should know that from How I Met Your Mother. The #1 How I Met Your Mother trivia player in the world. You don't know.
I didn't even know he was in that.
Oh,
aye, because the actor is like,
mate.
Aye, William Zabka, Billy Zabka.
Billy Zabka.
He's Barney's childhood hero.
What, as in the Karate Kid? Like
he's like. There's a whole thing in How I Met Your Mother about how Barney.
He's in it for
Johnny
like,
Lawrence
throughout the last.
Because he attends Barney and Robin's wedding in the last season, so he comes up in quite a few episodes throughout that.
Because he does like different cameos like throughout the full. I think it's like season 3, 4. Maybe he's got like 1 or 2 appearances, but in the last season, he's actually in it quite like regularly. Like he's probably in it in like at least I would say like 80% of the episodes in it.
Aye. No, it's good. He's good, and I liked his role in this season, helping Miguel to steal a line for the Foo Fighters, learning to walk again and all that. You know, he's helping him.
Listen, right, I do enjoy the season, right, and I get the cheesiness. I've forgiven the cheesiness. I've forgiven everything else, but see if he's fell down and broke bits of his back, and he's getting told he's never going to walk again. How can he miraculously walk in the space of about 3 weeks?
Because Johnny Lawrence took him to a rock concert. Johnny Lawrence took him to a rock concert and gave him a beer. Like that's a medical breakthrough, Jack, and you're just dismissing it. You're just dismissing it. How dare you? You know, I hope that's a stupid question, but podcast are watching this because this is something they can take to their show, you know, and discuss the science behind Johnny Lawrence's medical cure of Miguel's paralysis.
Okay, right, we'll accept it. It is the power of magic, the power of rock and roll, baby. Is what
absolutely
saves Miguel from being completely paralysed for the waist down.
Yeah.
I will move on from that actually, and we'll throw Miguel into Eagle Fang, newly formed Eagle Fang with a badass name, Eagle Fang.
No, eagles don't have fangs.
It made no sense, and that everybody knew it made no sense, but we're still like, yeah, let's run with it. Well, obviously Johnny didn't because he's thick as shit.
That's the funniest thing about it.
Complete waste of time. They can't get. They don't have money, so they can't even get a place to train. So they train in the park, and it's just him, Penis Breath, the wee specky guy,
some others, other assorted extras,
some other nameless recurring characters that they don't give a shit about. But yeah, we've got Miguel. Obviously, this complete turmoil about whether to trust Johnny again. You know, as he's lying in the hospital bed, he completely kind of shuns him. He thinks, nah, this is it, we're done. Yeah. He says that because at first, you know, before he's even woke up to him, he's like saying, "Where's Sensei?" And you're like, "Oh, what? He still likes him."
Yeah.
But very quickly turns around again, and he sort of betrays his trust, or distrusts him again, and then it isn't until he takes him to a rock concert and helps him to walk again. By literally just telling him to walk, he's just like, "Walk," and he's like, "I can't." And then he eventually does. But
it's brilliant. Such a good show.
Excellent. Anyway, so Miguel starts walking again. Johnny Lawrence is back in the good books with both Miguel and his ma, who he's pumping. Excellent. But excellent. For Miguel, sorry, there's a wee bit of dust there if you wonder why.
It's a great hand for Miguel. For Miguel.
Back in training, and I suppose like the only real reason they all do this is to get to the All Valley Karate tournament, right? So we've obviously got that in the horizon, and Miguel's back training, thinking, I want to be champion again. You've obviously got a potential Miyagi-Do contender, which could be maybe Samantha.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure yet. But yeah, we've got Miguel's back on top, really. Obviously able to fight again, and he gets his comeuppance again as well in the fight at the LaRusso household where he fights that blooming guy.
That one. That guy.
I think his name's like Kaiser or something, like Kaiser or something. Let me see if I can find it quickly.
No, it's all right. That's the problem. There are these live shows, you know. Try to get Kyler. I think it is Kyler.
Kyler, there you go.
Yeah, because he was the villain in season 1. He was the original bully. You know, the reason he wanted to go to Cobra Kai in the first place. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I like that. I like the
sort
of full circle with that he gets his ass kicked off him, and then he basically confides in karate and finds a way how to fight back, and he does. It means he fights on behalf of Samantha. I think he stands up for Samantha or something like that, and then that's obviously the start of their relationship as well. So I did like that it came full circle, and he's obviously back in it, and he is the worst cunt. He's like, he is like the Johnny Lawrence or the John Kreese of the original Karate Kid. It's very much there's no two sides to him or anything like that. It's just he's
just a wee cocky shit, isn't he?
He's just like evil the whole time, really. Kind of what our good pal Hawk became, and we'll obviously get on to him. But yeah, we'll move on to Cobra Kai. And the first person I want to speak about, who is, for me, actually one of the most, probably has maybe not highest screen time, but certainly, certainly one of the most interesting stories or focal stories in this season, which is John Kreese. So, Sweeney, we obviously get a bit of history, as well as a bit of diving deep into Kreese's backstory. So, Sweeney, what was your thoughts on the whole Kreese is a nutcase because he was in Vietnam story?
I mean, Joe, it's probably one of the best things that's happened this season. Was I thought the flashbacks were brilliant. I thought it kind of brought a kind of different dynamic the season, in comparison to the first two. It was mental though, but I think it kind of fits quite well into his character story. I feel like. No, I thought because he's not had much. Like I know he's probably classified as one of the main characters, but in season 1 and 2, he didn't have much screen time, so you didn't really get to see the kind of his development. And obviously with me, I've not seen the original Karate Kid, so I'm not sure if that would have covered that. But yeah, it was good to enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Truff, I take it John Kreese is one of your favourite characters. You like a villain, but you also like an understood villain. And that's the interesting thing, because up until this season, we were just like, why is Kreese just such a bad bastard? Like, why? He's like Moff Gideon. Like,
he's terrible.
You're just a terrible man, and there's no reason about it. And the difference is, this is although it is obviously a very theatrical karate world, it is meant to be the real world. So you obviously get people who maybe are just this evil, and John Kreese is one of them. But as you said, as I said there, Truff, you like an understood villain. So getting this Vietnam backstory, what was your thoughts?
I think given Vietnam as a war specifically into it, these men were, told they were going to fight for something for their country. It ended up being diddly squat. It was a war they lost, and it was a war, when they came back, they didn't have anything waiting for them. And John Kreese's case, he went over there. We seen him. He didn't start off a bad guy. He started off a guy, just working for his family, trying to earn on his living, went over for love of his country to Vietnam and lost everything over there. Was betrayed by his mentor in Vietnam. Found out the love that he was coming back to died. So you understand why he maybe has some issues that haven't been dealt with since then, and that's not his fault, because there was no services to help the veterans of Vietnam. That's a very real thing. But it really does help that character, because without that, we've seen him as this sort of pantomime villain, and he's very, very good at that. He's excellent at coming in and just being that evil, spiteful man like that you just love to absolutely hate. Giving him this undertone is really, really good, and it also sets up a very important plot point for next season, because Terry Silver was the name of one of the soldiers that was in there with him, his old friend who is in the Karate Kid 3 is one of the main villains. And it looks as though that's who he calls at the end of this season to come to his aid. And I just think, for a guy that actually, like, what age can, what's his name be, Martin Cove be at this point? I'm going to look that up. Because he was born 1945, so he's
60s or something. But
he's 75 years of age. Like, that man in the fight sequences, he's in good shape. Was holding his own there, and I think he's been the biggest asset to Cobra Kai, because the problem you have with the show is that in the end, you really need to root for Johnny and Danny coming together at one point. You need to have this foil for both of them to go up against, and he has played an absolute blinder as an essential part of this show. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more John Kreese next season.
No, you hit the nail on the head there. It needed that. It needed somebody else that was going to overcome the darkness that was in Johnny, and obviously the light that is the Miyagi-Do side of things. So John Kreese, as you say, just plays it absolutely perfectly.
He's the real MVP. The real MVP of this show.
100%. 100%. And to actually just take it right into the season. We've obviously, as you said, he betrayed by his mentor, who he also learned his fighting style off of. You know, again, it kind of comes again full circle where Johnny Lawrence learned off of him and became a better fighter than Kreese. And then obviously bested Kreese at the end, and it's like the same thing kind of happened to Kreese. You know, Kreese was a young boy taken in, indoctrinated by this way of fighting, and this way of dealing with things. Actually, not just a way of fighting, but a way of actually overcoming your problems. Which John Kreese, as we know, already had some before he even left for Vietnam.
Yeah.
And you touched on a lot of things there about why Vietnam is so fucked. One, because they went over and lost, but two, they went over to kill innocents and destroy villages of people who had done nothing to them. And a lot of the people, and I think a lot of them certainly didn't want to do that. Certainly didn't understand why they were at war. It was just good propaganda at the time to get people to enlist. I think some people were were enlisted based on dates or something like that, and like birthdays and that as well. I can't really be sure on that, but I'm pretty sure there was some sort of conscription for like ages or like the date you were born in. Anyway, but yeah, so you can imagine that how weird it must have been in that time to, you know, again, we're obviously in a theatrical karate world and stuff, but you know, the Vietnam War was a very real thing. So if you took part in that, you know, I can imagine you would certainly have some issues. So that's where we know Kreese is an evil bastard, but we understand why, maybe more so than why Johnny Lawrence is an evil bastard, because his dad was an arsehole, you know.
I get that Johnny's not really evil, just Johnny's ignorant, you know,
well,
and he's not walking up to
evil,
it till now, you know.
There's obviously certain levels to it, but Johnny Lawrence was the bully in school, but that's what I mean. He was bullied in school because his dad bullied him slightly, you know. And again, like, you know, as I said, what I've said from the start of the show, it kind of all came full circle, which is what I like about this season. It made up for all the cheesiness that I was, you know, curling my toes at.
Then you're like, yes, finally a war. Sweeney's not a fresher breath here. Don't start me. I'm sorry, Island again. Get to the live. Sweeney will be back in a wee minute, I think. But yeah, John Kreese, I think the dynamic is really good. One of the key scenes in this season, obviously, was where they go to that meeting to try and save the All Valley tournament, and you just get that great shot as Danny going to one side, I'm going to do it, and Johnny sees him, he's like, oh, I'm going to beat him to the punch, and John Kreese just stands up and gives like the most disingenuous speech in the planet, and he's like, I'm just an old man, like trying to help out people. I'm just like, shut the fuck up. No wonder Amanda started screaming at him, man. I was like, I would have done the same thing.
It's such a frustrating watch, that bit, but yeah, again, like, I think it's frustrating because it's so well acted from both point of view. Yeah, that's your serious face trying to get Sweeney back in, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Well, here he is. Here's the man himself. He's back. He's back with a bang.
Aye, apologies. My Wi-Fi is terrible, so it keeps cutting off and on. Like the same issue with the Star Wars gauntlet.
You're
so
telling
apologies.
me.
I'm back now.
To sum up, Higgins, apart from that, I like Sweeney, you know.
It's like pure delayed or you're speaking and stuff as well, so
that's fine. No worries.
Okay, so apologies if it cuts out again.
No worries, mate. So yeah, John Kreese, finish that off. I liked how it ended as well. He's obviously bested by his student Johnny, who he always had faith in. But now he's got a new protege, obviously under his wing, which is Robbie. So it's I don't know. I'm really excited for what is the next season, because I think they've done this so well. Even if as a whole the whole season wasn't amazing, certainly the last episode and how it was all wrapped up and put a shiny wee bow on it and that, I thought spot on. How they've done that, and obviously the whole drama of Johnny knocking out Robbie as well, by accident. You know, again, it falls into that you know, it adds to the drama that already is a bit over the top, but still really enjoyable. Move on to the next Cobra Kai contender, which is Tori Nichols. Spoke about her and Samantha, obviously butting heads on a number of occasions, giving Samantha the scar. Truff, I said that she's a crackpot and that she's just a weird. I think she is. I think regardless of her story, we've been talking about people's backstories and why they're bullies and all this, and I get why she's a bully, but I also think she's just similar to Kreese, where she's just like has this taste for blood. Like, just I don't know if it's in the acting because she's a young actress and she's trying to be tough, so she's just like gritting her teeth constantly, so she looks like nightly, but she's like I don't know, it's just like nobody's that weird and angry all the time. So
I get what you mean. I do. She obviously has a chip on her shoulder. You know, she's what age is she? Still at school, working 2 jobs. You know, her mum's sick. She's getting sexually harassed by her fucking, landlord. You know what I mean? As well, like she's not had an easy time with it. And I'm not making the excuse for her, but it plays into Kreese that the best villains are the ones you can understand. But unlike Kreese, I can see a redemption arc going forward for Tori. I do think that the way that Danny had to accept that Johnny wasn't as bad a guy as he thought, and maybe he had to give him a chance. I think you need to see something similar with Samantha and Tori. I think she's clearly someone who's been through a lot, and so whilst the Samantha line was right, doesn't excuse anyone being a bully or picking on anyone else. At the same time, she's not been given any help, and she is still a child in the show. It's a child caring for her entire family at this point. So I do think that it's an interesting character in that regard. I do think she has to be cut some slack in that regard. And it's a character I'll be excited to see next season, because I think we either see, a possible redemption for our character down the road, or we see, maybe a tragic ending to this character, maybe.
Ooh. Bit ominous, huh?
I could see her dying.
Personally, for me, I can't wait till she's killed off.
A fan, Sweeney,
Not at all. Truffle's not at all.
She's a pain in the arse, isn't she?
Jesus
Aye,
Christ.
complete pain in the arse. Honest to God.
She's a pain in the arse. Pain in the arse.
4. That's just will get killed off.
Wow, season 4. Sweeney's calling it. That's his prediction.
I get it. I get the backstory. It's all very. In fact, the worst part about it, and I think more so this season, was obviously the mad fucking electrician guy, or whatever he is. I don't know if he's the
superintendent, maybe.
What? It's not even that. I'm trying to think. It's kind of like a landlord, but no landlord. But yeah, anyway, him being that mad sleazy guy that he is, and that that was a bit uncomfortable, that bit of it to watch. And see the bit when, I know I'm laughing, but see the bit when John Kreese is like talking to her, way back to him. Yeah. And she just keeps looking over his shoulder. I'm like, John, turn round and back at him. John, she's trying to signal to you. And he was just no getting it. He's just like, you're just looking right in the eyes, like, what's wrong?
He's so intense. You do root for Kreese in that moment, though, when Kreese goes and just basically tears the guy a new one. It's phenomenal.
I want to chop his fingers off, like, just.
Aye. He's so good. When he gets that nifty wee device he had to hand.
The finger cutter.
That obviously we all carry about with us,
carry a couple of them. You never know when you need to chop somebody's finger off, to be fair. Anyway, we'll move on. Speaking of arseholes, the biggest arsehole, in my opinion, is Eli Hawk. Hawk. I mean, again, just we don't really know. The thing is, we don't even really get his backstory other than the fact that he was slightly bullied, like having a weird cleft lip kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then he's just went absolutely full psycho. Done that with his hair, and is now just the worst guy ever. We obviously get a bit of his redemption, but what was your thoughts, Sweeney, on Hawk just generally, like up until season 3, and then don't know, were you surprised by his turnaround, like his change of heart?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought it would have probably came sooner. I think there's been a kind of subtle leading up to it. But yeah, like for the majority of time, for between season 1 and the kind of first half of season 3, he's been a fucking nightmare. But yeah, it's good to see his kind of character journey as well. Like, So his redemption. So whether that leads into the next season, it'll be good to see. But yeah.
Truff, a similar question. Like, Sweeney thought it was going to come sooner. Like, obviously, you get this relationship with Dimitri, his old pal, who he sort of turns his back on and that, and sees as weak, and played up to the whole Cobra Kai philosophy. So, you obviously get the fight at the LaRusso house.
Yeah.
And he does change a heart. So what was your thoughts really? Were you, like Sweeney, were you kind of expecting it eventually, or was it something that, I don't think anyone would be shocked by it, but was it something that you maybe thought would have been strung out, or?
I feel probably it should have been strung out, or if it was going to happen, then it could have been signposted a bit better. Like, because his whole thing throughout the season hasn't really been regret or showing any remorse for his actions. It's just been either, I think if there's talk about a most improved character, Dimitri was the most improved character for me in season 3, because I think seasons 1 and 2 I found him a bit unbearable, but season 3, he starts to get something a bit about him though. You know what I mean? He's got a bit about him now. At least he can hold his own.
The one thing that he does is just that front kick, like every single time.
Well, with those legs, though, you would as well. You know what I mean? With big, lanky stilts he stands on. He'd be kicking someone in the chest with that big piston. But
his signature move is just the front kick.
The front kick. But I do like that. We got Hawk having a redemption arc, because I think you want to bring as many characters as possible on the other side to amplify how villainous, Kreese and Tori and Robbie are to an extent, so that's more powerful dynamic next season. But I just wish, like I said, been signposted a bit better. He just seemed to be jealous of Robbie. He didn't really show any remorse throughout most of the season for his actions. We get the hint of it in season 2 at the party, when they're talking about Doctor Who, I believe it is. And he's finding out the Doctor Who's a woman now for the first time and all that. But I don't know. I'll be excited to see where they take the character in season 3. I just hope it's not one of these ones where he's been an interesting character because he has been that angry guy. He has been the muscle. He's been that intimidating threat. He's been that loose cannon. So anytime he's on screen, you're not really sure what he's going to do. And I hope this, turn to the good side, as it were, doesn't neuter the character in any way, because you now need to give him an interesting storyline to go with, rather than just, he's in Miyagi-Do now and he's relegated again to number 2 behind Miguel, or even number 3 now that Sam's over there. You know what I mean?
I was going to say he's probably not even number 2, number 3. But the thing is now, he does find Hawk does find himself in a position now where whether it be Miyagi-Do or Cobra Kai, he's not the front runner for either of them now.
No.
Even at Cobra Kai, where he was on top for a while, Tori came along, who sort of rivaled his a similar attitude, but you would have probably still said Hawk would have been the number 1 fighter that would have, if there was a final or something, would have made it. Now you've got that guy, I forgot.
Robbie.
Nah, well, not Robbie, but the other guy.
Kyler. Yeah.
Kyler, yeah. The guy, Robbie obviously comes later, but that Kyler guy comes. I know he batters the mad fat guy that was his pal, which is fine.
Yeah.
So he got his fight and his win there with that, which was fine. But yeah, I think he finds himself a bit out in his depth wherever he goes now. So I think he now kind of feels how he used to feel at the start of the first season, and that's why maybe he's returned to his original way of thinking. And obviously he's always had a good relationship with that Dimitri boy, so I think he naturally felt sorry for him at the party when he seen him down and helped him up, and then thought, you know what, this is it, I'm gonna change sides. So,
and he has quite a cool
But,
character. He's the Darth Maul or the Boba Fett of to compare it to Star Wars again. You know what I mean? He has that. He has a good look about him. You know what I mean? And that's one thing for a character. See if you can.
He absolutely does not have a good look about him.
No, but an iconic look. Like if someone went as that for Halloween, you'd immediately know who it was. And that's a strength of character building, I think. And I think he'll always have that for him. I'm still interested to see where they go next season. I think the actor who plays him actually does a pretty good job of it as well. So, I'm rooting for Hawk, but I'm rooting for him to get something substantial. I don't want him to see, slide down the card, as it were.
Aye, well, I do think he will. He will slide down the cards, but I think what they'll try and do is give him a good enough fight that he gets,
Yeah.
I don't know, some sort of plaudit. Because obviously, again, like I said, they'll be heading towards the All Valley tournament and or championship, what it's called, and I think that's what obviously everybody's fighting for, really. Regardless of whether they want to fight in school or not, like the championship is what the people who are running the dojos, obviously John Kreese, Daniel and Johnny, that's what they care about, really, is winning the All Valley. So Hawk will find himself fighting for a place, really, on the cards. But I think the only thing that will kind of give him redemption in the next season will be, I don't know, having him beat somebody that needed beating, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody that needed a battering. So we'll have that to look forward to. But lastly for Cobra Kai is Robbie, obviously the newest addition. So most of this season he's on the run, or for the most of the first part of the season. Sorry, he's on the run obviously after Sweet Chin Music and Miguel off.
Eliminate him for the Royal Rumble match.
Aye, over the top rope. Sweet Chin Music broke his back. Excellent. So again, you get Robbie who feels bad because, he's just at that point in his life, he had, sort of trained to be fair, like trained in the way of Miyagi-Do. So, he wasn't expecting Miguel to just stop and show mercy, whatever it's called, whatever the words that he uses. So I think, he feels bad because he's like, the mean streak in me was that I need to win this fight. But he's he does have a heart and he obviously feels bad about it. But in that respect, he now already didn't like Johnny. He didn't really like his dad, and had no real place for him in his life. The one person that he had respected and got on well with, LaRusso, has obviously been shunned from his life as well, based off the back of these events. And now both Johnny and Daniel obviously chase him, try to get him back on sides for no reason. Well, I don't think there's any malice in them. So Johnny really is just trying to get Robbie back because it's his son. He wants to look after him. He's still, trying to become a dad for him. And Daniel obviously has now taken up that role as his sort of father mentor and wants to help him. So both are within their rights to try and help him. But Robbie, being angsty teen, obviously just, nearly paralysed the boy, isn't really up for chatting. So it finds itself in the juvie. The juvie. It's just the most American thing ever, isn't it? Like,
he's in juvie,
He's in the juvie. I was just like, oh, that's one of the Tokerloo moments. I'm just like, oh.
A jail for kids or an Italian football team, who knows?
They're playing it all night, But Robbie's character I really like, just all the way through it. I've enjoyed him. I think he's a good actor. I don't know how much of the stunts and the fighting and all that, the action scenes that the actors do, but I think for one, I think Robbie does do all of his.
He's very physically fit. If you see the actors,
I think he is somewhat martial arts trained. So they've given him that role, which is good. It's good to see somebody being able to do that from an acting point of view, and obviously getting the stunts in as well.
He's a good actor. I've been aware of him for a while, actually. I know Sweeney used to watch it as well. Was the show Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland? He had the role as the son. He was the president's son and Designated Survivor. He was the son in that. Yeah, so that was the first time I've seen him. But I think in terms of the young actors, he's the best of them. And I actually quite like them all. I think they all play their parts serviceably and they play them well. But he's had the most to do, and it's the most complex character in a way because, like, you do understand why he longed just to belong somewhere and for someone to really give a shit about him, and he found that with Danny. When he was starting to find that with Johnny again, when Johnny was making more of an effort, near the end of season 2, they'd sort of healed their relationship to an extent. So you understand why he's annoyed when all of a sudden, they've chased him down and they've sent him to jail, and his dad doesn't show up when he's in jail, and no one writes to him anymore, when he doesn't write back when he's in jail.
Samantha's more interested in Miguel, that doesn't want him. It's absolutely fair. Again, what you said, I agree. I think he does have one of the best stories. Sweeney, I mean, he's now joined Cobra Kai. He's under Kreese's wing. He's going to be somewhat indoctrinated by Kreese. Do you think in the next season that we will see him fighting for Cobra Kai under Kreese, or do you think that there could be another change of heart in order, and perhaps maybe even Kyler maybe takes top spot for Cobra Kai or something?
Yeah, I think it's obviously kind of teed up for this kind of just basically like they're playing it out between their sons of the original Karate Kid. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know how they're going to play it out though, because it seems to just chop and change this. You don't really know what goes on half the time in this show. Like, the storyline changes so many different directions so quickly. So, as a character though, I think he's actually plays it very well. As Truffle said, like he was in that show Designated Survivor, and although he had a camera role on that, he's a very good actor. So, no, I'll be interested to see what happens.
Yeah. So a similar question, like I'm kind of reluctant to want him to change his heart, but I do know that we've seen that in the past where, for example, with Hawk as well. You know, he's obviously jumped ship. Robbie, on the other hand, has went the other way, but that's over the course of 2 seasons. So I'm interested to know. I'm interested to see what happens. But what's your predictions then? You thinking he'll be fighting on Cobra Kai's side by the end of the All Valley?
I think so. I think he'll still be there by the end of the All Valley. I think we'll get a relationship developed between him and Miguel in the next season, because that's something we haven't seen to this point. You know, and like I said, it's poetry. It repeats itself. You have these beats like Danny and Johnny had to sort their shit out together. You know, same as Samantha and Tori and Miguel and Robbie as well, because neither of them are bad guys. You know, they're not bad people. Like they got in their fight through A, like misunderstanding, B, jealousy because they're in a love triangle. You know, C, they fought each other in the final of the last All Valley without ever really talking to each other. You know, so I think communication is key with that relationship, and I'd like to see those two, you know, cross paths. You know, in terms of dialogue, have a chat. You know, air out their grievances, air out their problems with each other, because I do think that'd be a cool duo. I think that'd be a good dynamic, and ultimately, I think you do need to see him go back on side with the rest of them, because I don't think he's a bad character, and I think it would err on the side of being too tragic a story if he never really got his true redemption by the end of this show. For me, you know, I'd like to see him back, you know, reconciled with his dad, his mum out of rehab, you know, the Russos accepting him as a member of the family almost, and everyone just being happy, having a nice Thanksgiving dinner. You know, it'd be nice. It'd be great.
So yeah, so where would that fall in then? Because you've got Kreese at the helm, and Robbie obviously now going to be utterly despising his dad for knocking him out, albeit his own fault, because his dad was obviously in rage mode.
Right, and he decides to have an Anakin Skywalker moment.
Yeah, he could have absolutely just allowed that to happen and just said, "Dad, you're an arsehole." He didn't need to go fight him. But he did, and he got himself knocked out for it. So
yeah, it's on him.
You can't see that. You can't really see that having a U-turn really early doors. So it might be a later thing. It's funny you mentioned that him and Miguel maybe being a duo or something, but I don't see, again, I don't know how that would happen, because Robbie obviously fighting for Cobra Kai, main rival will be Miyagi-Do, who I think Miguel will be the top fighter for. Yeah. Which is also an interesting one, because it's going to be Johnny and Daniel teaming up. I don't know if there might end up being a split faction between the two again, and
I'd hate that. I'd really hate that, because then it would just feel like it's repeating itself too much, you know.
I know, but I just don't know how they're going to have all those fighters in the tournament, or well.
From my understanding, I don't know if the dojos are completely combined. I'm not sure if it's going to be like run like two separate dojos, just using elements of both, you know. So you could have Eagle Fang is still a group within Miyagi-Do, you know, but they're just running them together almost. And I like that element of it. You know, it's two different philosophies, two different teachers. You know, they'll be able to learn from each other, and the students will be able to learn different things. Like even in Miguel's one conversation with Danny in this season, you know, Danny's like, "Yeah, not everything he tells you is right," and Miguel's like, "Yeah, okay, I can see it. You're both arseholes in your different ways." You know what I mean? And that's essentially what this show teaches us. Everyone's an arsehole just in different ways, and everyone just needs to try and accept each other for it. You know?
Everybody thinks they're right.
Yeah, everyone thinks they're right, and that was good. You haven't brought up Ali yet, but I thought her inclusion in the season was really necessary for that.
Why are you jumping the gun, man? We're still on Robbie, for God's sake.
My bad.
But, I wasn't even finished with Robbie. I was interested, again, just because what you were saying with Robbie and Miguel. So do you think that maybe Robbie will end up being back at Eagle Fang? Or like, whatever?
I think so. Maybe not by the end of next season, but I think by the end of season 4, we're going to have those wounds healed slightly. You know.
And what about a budding relationship with Tori? You know, Tori's giving him the side eyes, and he's like, it's happening.
I can see that happening. I can see that, like this love square, as it were. I don't know which way the Rubik's Cube is going to end up shaking out in the end between Miguel, Samantha, Tori, and Robbie.
And Miguel end up together, and
yeah, I turn up for the books. A pure Hawk shock moment in the middle of this season as well, when he sees his ex-bird has got a bird, and he's like, well.
I was thinking actually the way that Hawk was into Dimitri.
I think you know, a storyline like that would be interesting for him as well. And I think it would add a new layer of vulnerability to that character that helps it, because it seems like whenever that character makes himself more vulnerable, that's when he responds with more aggression. You know, so I think that could be an interesting story.
Yeah, he might accidentally show his feelings towards Dimitri, and then everybody's like, "Gay boy," and then he's like, "Ah, rage."
The typical American high school way that would pan out in the show.
He's like, "I am gay." He's like so raging at it.
The fights in the tournament. I could see that happening with Hawk, and I think it'd be an interesting story to tell as well.
Could be. Anyway, yes, Ali Truff. Why is everybody so hung up about Ali? What is the deal with it?
It's Elizabeth Shue, mate. She's an icon of the 80s. Like, no, she was in Karate Kid.
Like, there's just absolutely no need for these two men who are both married with children, well, both previously married with children, to be that hung up about a girl that they fought over when they were 16. Like, who in the real world is actually that hung up about their XXX?
I know, but for the purposes of this story, it set her up really well.
No, but Daniel Russo, as I said, is a dirty bastard, because
not only does he have cubicle,
not only is he still hung up about Ali, when he's off to Okinawa, and he's now back with his old flame for Okinawa, and he's like, "Oh,
I loved your description of it earlier, when he's like, he's smiling and he's staring at her in the eyes."
Yes, he's like looking right in her eyes. He could have easily have just been like, "I don't fancy you, I'll look elsewhere." But he's like, "No, I'm going to stare right in your soul because I still love you."
I do love it. Listen, it's good to see Elizabeth Shue in anything. Nominated for Best Actress for Leaving Las Vegas back in the day. You know, she's very, very competent actress, very good. Karate Kid, Back to the Futures 2 and 3. So it's always good to see Elizabeth Shue pop up. And I think, you know, it was good to have that. You needed something that was eventually going to make them sit down and see, you know, you two guys are jackasses. Like, please let this go. You know, and I thought her character, you know, she was going through a time in her life where she was going through a transition that she needed something done. And her as a character, she needed to go back and revisit the past in a way. So it was good that she came in at that right time rather than her just coming in normally. And then I think she would have just been totally dismissive of the two of them, as she would be, because as you point out, you know, she'd just been like, get a grip. How long ago was this?
No, clearly, because that's the thing. Clearly, she has zero feelings for it. Well, the fact that she went on a date with Johnny or went for coffee and all that, I actually thought maybe that was going to be something. And I wasn't opposed to it being something, especially because she's on the back of divorce and that. I thought, well, it makes sense. At least one of you is being faithful to your, you know, at least your divorce number before you're going to go off for coffee.
So you're all smiling and looking people in the eyes when you're married.
People right in the eyes when you've got a wife back home trying to save your business. You know,
the dealership. She's just trying to save the bloody dealership.
LaRusso, you dog, man.
I love this show.
what? It is an absolutely head fuck of a show. But
when you actually think about it. Yeah, I know.
it is, you put it really, really well at the start, Truff. It's just like easily digestible, soft watching. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's violence and it's constant violence and you know, all the sort of wrong ways of thinking, almost like, you know, there's not actually been any homosexuality, but there's certainly like a toxic masculinity in it. There's like this idea of bullying being kind of acceptable and all that. So there's certainly some themes in it that like aren't great, but like there's something about it that's just you don't take it too seriously. It's all very playful. Like there's nothing that you know, that I think has like offended me or anything, you know what I mean? And I'm not.
But they addressed it though. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. The show never, you know, sides with that point of view. You know, whenever Johnny does it, it's always the butt of a joke, and it's like, you know, look at this guy. You know, he's a bit of an idiot, like saying that. And whenever Kreese tries to put on that sort of toxic masculine front, you know, that's when Cobra Kai really become the villains of the show. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think the show does a really good. It does really well at addressing that old stereotype and confronting it, you know, but in a way also saying, you know, here's why these people think this way, you know, and here's why you understand it. The likes of Kreese, the likes of Tori. And that's what I like about the show. Is actually it's cheese. We know it's cheese. You know, we know it's 80s pays tribute to the original Karate Kid, but it's also really quite well written in terms of how it develops its characters and its story, and that's what's going to keep you watching ultimately at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Just what you said that they're well written. I'm actually, I didn't check it before I came on, but I'm pretty sure one of the writers, actually Will Smith is an executive producer on it, which I didn't know.
Yes.
Fair enough. But no, I'm sure there was a writer or something like that was in another really popular show, a show that I like.
I know that John Hurwitz, he wrote the Harold and Kumar movies, and he also directed the American Pie 4, American Reunion.
But that's funny you say that, because I get the American Pie sort of feel to it, even though it's a wee bit, well, it's a less R-rated or whatever.
He did that with Hayden Schoolsberg as well. I'm trying to think, because Josh Held is the other of the main creators of the show, the main creative voices of the show.
No, I know it's bad. I probably should have done this research before, but I'm just...
No, it's all right. It's all right.
I'm sure I've seen, like, or maybe it was just like one of the episodes was directed by someone or something like that. There was definitely, I seen the end. I think it might be the last episode. Let's see if I can find that. The last episode of season 3, I'm sure.
It was...
I feel like it was Game of Thrones or something, like somebody like that, or a show like that, sorry, that they done. Strange.
No, bizarre. Maybe we'll find it for next season, though. maybe we'll find it for then.
I'll comment in the
Facebook. You know,
let the watchers and listeners and viewers let them know
nice.
that I am, yes, indeed, an idiot and should do my research before I come on the show.
No, you get these trains of thought, you know what I mean? It's just, you know, it's a shame the answers aren't immediately available to us right now, but
not even my laptop in front of me.
I know, yes, but Will Smith is an executive producer on the show, which is interesting. So, yeah.
Somewhat interesting, isn't it? Funnily enough. I mean, did he have any involvement? Obviously, his son was in the remake. Is he at all involved in that? Like, did he produce that?
I don't know. Maybe it could be a rights thing. If he had the rights for the newest reboot of the Karate Kid, it could be one of those ones where they had to, you know, consult with him, you know, before coming on and producing this one. So there we go.
It's funny when you type in Karate Kid, like it's always just the old one. You can't find the remake.
Because no one wants to find the remake. No one really wants to get involved in that, Jack. That's the reason. Sweeney said it best earlier. Can we just say, you know, while you're doing that, the last star of this show that we haven't yet talked about is the soundtrack. Oh my God. This is some soundtrack. I love this music in this show so much.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, just before that, but yes, Will Smith did produce the remake.
So it could be that then.
I thought there might have been a tie-in with that, but yeah, no, soundtrack's pretty good. I can't even think of anything off the top of my head, like song-wise. You give me an example, because I can't. I just like the rock.
We got Gloria Love back, which is the love ballad used for Karate Kid 2, which is always a good throwback when you get that, or when you get Best Around. But I think we got very early in season 1, we got the what's it called? Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue, and that's when you knew just exactly what tone the show was going to take, And the singer we were talking about earlier, actually, do you know what band he was the lead singer of? He appeared in the show.
It was in the Rocks.
The rock concert.
No, I don't know, but the song that he sang was like a parody of an actual song.
He sang "I Want to Rock" at one point,
Yeah.
and that was Twisted Sister. He's the lead singer of Twisted Sister. Right. Yeah, I wish he'd sung "Come On, Feel the Noise" or something like that instead.
Yeah. Well, they didn't sing that.
They did a cover of it at one point.
Well, they wouldn't be singing a cover, surely.
It was a very popular cover. Very popular cover. So version I listened to. I can promise you.
I don't think it's that popular, mate. If you say "Come On, Feel the Noise," everybody knows that it's Status Quo. It's not. I think it's Status Quo.
I'll tell you, listen to the "Come On, Feel the Noise." You listen to the.
Oasis done a cover of it as well.
And then I was going to say Oasis done a cover of it.
Nah, you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about any version apart from. Oh no, you may be right. It's Quiet Riot. I'm thinking of. Oh well. Anyway, I'm an idiot now. So at least we're idiots together.
Yeah.
At least we're all idiots together.
No, I'm on a Quiet Riot rabbit hole now.
Let's end the show there, Jack. Let's end the show there.
I can't end shows, and I don't even know how to do it with my face on the screen now. I don't.
You just need to. Do you know what you do? You keep smiling at the screen awkwardly until we end live and things like that. So you do it now. Do the wee rundown bit. Where can they find us and all that, and then we'll just smile awkwardly at the screen till it ends.
Okay, right. So we spoke about Cobra Kai season 3. We are FTTV, and we were live on FTYT. But you can find us on FTYT for YouTube, and you can find us elsewhere on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, all the
Google,
other podcasting places.
Google Podcasts. Every podcast site.
You wee freak. And
what we're going to be talking about next, Jack? What we're going to be talking about next?
That, Truffles, I have no idea.
One Division on Tuesday.
We're talking about One Division on Tuesday. I forgot about that. But thanks very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. This is new for us, this FTYT. So, you need to cut us some slack with that. But
we'll probably just keep Sweeney on
glad that you can now listen to our dulcet tones, but you can also see what we look like. And that's good, isn't it? And you can see Truffles ready for his bed.
With my dojo.
I don't know who sleeps in a dressing gown, actually. I don't know why I said that.
Exactly.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, my guest. Sweeney, you've been quite quiet and slightly delayed. I don't know if everybody's catching that, but it's been a good laugh. So cheers for coming on.
No worries. Apologies, my Wi-Fi is terrible, so I'm hearing you like 5 minutes after you're speaking. So
it's weird because
but cheers for having us on, lads.
You stay right in the corner for me, so it's funny how
I know
walk over to yours quicker than the time it's taking for you to answer.
Next time, Sweeney should walk over to yours and use your Wi-Fi at the back.
To be honest, I can't win your Wi-Fi. There's a nightmare.
That's a talking chilly fuck up. Let's end the show.
Anyway, it's also been Truffles. It's been a pleasure having you on as well, Truffles.
That'll be great. And we'll talk about One Division, obviously, coming up. A very weird show. A lot of things to say on it, and I can't wait. Buzzing.
Looking forward to it. Right, cheers, guys.
Bye. Smile awkwardly.